Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday afternoon Facebook Live with Parkland Stamper. I have been missing for a while. I'm not even quite sure. I know it's 5 weeks, might even be 6. Ooh, sorry. Lots going on in the Keith household. Had some work to do. We listed our home for sale. We had a bunch of activity. Now it's pretty quiet. We live on an acreage, so it could take some time before we actually find someone that wants to make this their perfect next home. But I'm back in business. I'm back making a mess in my craft room, and I am going to share with you a project with a product grouping that I played with for the very first time this morning. I bought it and I've been afraid of it. I did some research. My project is not as polished as maybe some of mine, but I think I'll have some more for you in the days to come. But there isn't a lot of information out there about how to use this, and it's also not very presented very prominently in the catalog. So I wanted to share it with you. And it's kind of cute. I'm doing a child's birthday card today, but I think it has a lot of potential to do other things. So let me switch my cameras here and we will get started. And now I also need to find my Facebook page wherever it went. There it is, so that I can see comments, hoping that there is somebody out there watching. If you're watching, please comment. I would totally appreciate it. So we're going to play with the Stellar Birthday stamp set, and it's paired with the Give It a Whirl Dies in the catalog, although this is definitely not the only stamp set you can use this set of dies with. But I watched a couple of videos today, got some pointers on how to put it together, and that's basically going to be my purpose today. Like I said, my card isn't the most stellar or polished of some that I have shared in the past, but this might perk your interest in this particular stamp set and dies. So let me get this out of the way. I'll talk about the dies in a minute. And oops, got to get back. So this is the card that I'm going to walk you through today. It's an interactive card in that it actually has a mechanism in it to turn and change the picture. And it's designed specifically to do this so that you can have sort of 3 different little messages, pictures, whatever you want in the card. And like I said, this was really my very first play with this, only a few hours ago. So I'm sure I could do better with more practice, but I did want to share this with you. And I wanted to get back on live because I've been gone for so long. So what I want to talk to you about before we actually start making the project is the dies. So you have this large, mostly rectangular die. So that would be the piece that cuts this out, and it's got the stitched detail on it, which is really, really cool. And this piece here, this is the mechanism that creates the spin. This piece, the white here that's spinning. Okay, that's that piece. And then to that, you attach different window shapes. So I use the basic one, this one here, which is this one here. And you notice there's this little knob on here. So not only is that one a window shape, so is this heart, this circle, and this rectangle. Now we're only going to work with the basics today. That's all I have played with. But I'm thinking that if I get the opportunity to play some more, either later today or tomorrow morning when I come into my VIP group tomorrow night, I may have some more samples to share with you and tips and tricks. But I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on the basics of how to make this work I hope so anyway. I hope I don't make a mess here and that you all enjoy the project that I create with you today. So I'm going to just move my paper out of the way because we're going to do a couple cuts with the Stampin' Cut emboss machine. And I think it's really important to share how to cut this. So, oops, oh, I went and bent my cardstock. That's not very good. Okay, so I have 2/4 sheets here of white cardstock, basic white or Whisper white, whatever version of the white you're on. I imagine most people are pretty much done with Whisper white. And we're going to start with this die, okay? So I'm just going to lay that down there, and we're going to use this shape for our window. So what we want to do is, the reason that that has that little hole in there is that it'll hook into this here. For when you're cutting, you want to cut them out at the same time. So I don't know if this is the best way to do this or not. This seems to have worked. I've tried it a couple times. I kind of just put it down there and try and visualize that it will stay in place once you kind of hook them together. But now see, I've got my die down too low. Okay, so leave my finger on there. And then of course with these larger rectangle dies, it's better to cut them on a bit of an angle. I did my very first one. I brought in my old magnetic plate, but because there's a double thickness here, it really wasn't very happy with it. I just carefully lay down my top plate and run that through. So we'll get this cutting done, and then we'll get into some of the decorating. Okay. So that's what it's done, and it's cut this piece out. We want to hang on to this. Now, we still have a bit of cutting to do. We need to create the mechanism, which is this circle piece that also has a little hole in the middle. Now I want to put that towards the top because I'm going to stamp something that I'm going to cut out on here later. It really doesn't matter where it is, you just need to cut it out whole. Put my plate on, run that through. Once I'm done this, we're done with the machine and I can get it out of the way. So it's put a hole in the middle there. I'm just going to save this scrap. We're going to use it a bit later. And I know you can't really see this. There is some emboss marks there from here. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do about that. But let me get this big thing out of the way so that we can get to business here. Bring back in my paper because we're definitely going to need this. So remember, I used this shape with this hooked in there, okay, to cut this out. All right, so I'm going to just set that aside. And then we had this piece and this die. Now, before I send this away, I can see it. You probably can't on camera. I'm just going to turn this till the lines from the die match up with the cutout image. And I will show you why in just a sec. Okay, so what I want to do, because this window is what's going to show up in here. So to give me a guide, I'm just going to take a pencil and lightly outline those openings. Okay, and pull it away. So that's the space that we can stamp in that will show up in the window. Okay, if that makes any sense. So I want to do that first before we come back to creating our background. So I'm going to create this pretty much the same way that I created the card that I shared with you, only because I haven't played with it very much, and I don't want to mess up. So you have to remember that you're like the natural reaction, and we have a little arrow, and I'll show you that in a minute, is to turn it down. So if you've got directional items like our rocket, you want to make sure you're stamping it in the right direction. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to kind of line this up in the middle, because the very first thing I'm going to stamp with Memento is have a stellar birthday. Try and get it in the middle of that space. That, oh dear, I got a bit of a mess there. Oh well, this is just for demo purposes anyway. Now my next one, see, I'm cheating and I'm using my grid paper to help me line up, which I don't know, is that cheating? That's what it's there for, right? I'm going to stamp my rocket, but because I'm going to turn it like this, I want my rocket to go this way rather than this way. Okay. That makes sense? I'm doing all of this in Memento because we're going to color. And then the last thing that I'm going to stamp, it's going to be my little space dog. He's so cute. I have this little stamp, little space dog. This guy has a little space helmet on. He's chasing a bone. And as long as it's within that pencil area, we are good to go. All right, I'm just going to cover this back up. I'm going to give this a minute to dry because we're going to color on it, and then we'll come back to it. So while we're waiting for that to dry, let's work on our background. So we've got kind of a starry sky background here. So how I made that, I have Misty Moonlight ink and a blender brush. Ink that up. Start coming off the paper so you don't get a harsh line from where you set it down, and start adding color. It doesn't need to be even because, let's face it, this night sky or space or whatever, the color is not even depending on light. A little bit more intensity to the color here. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is kind of make it look like there's star sparkles out there. And the way that I did that, and I'm hoping this is going to work for me again. Whether I don't know if I have the right water pen or not. What you want to do is take an aqua, no, they're called water painters, not aqua painters. I'm thinking, yeah, you want one with the finer brushes, brush tips on it, full of water, and it says right on there to push, and you want water down into the brush part, and then you get water down there, and then you bang it on your finger, and it puts some little water droplets. And what will happen is where those water droplets fall. I think we're, oh, I got something a little bigger than I wanted on there. Oh, well, no two cards will ever be the same when you do this. You get some fine ones. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see that the color is starting to fade out in certain spots. So that gives you that starry sky kind of mottled look. Yeah, it's really coming together now. I got maybe a little more on there than I wanted, but that's okay. I'm just going to let that sit for a minute and set it off to the side. Now that we have our images stamped, we can make sure it's a good quality artist eraser. So usually a white one, and you're going to erase those pencil marks that we put on there as our guides. Because they won't smear or leave marks behind. That's why you want a good quality eraser. See, they're all disappearing. Then we're going to color our images. Now, when I did the original, I did it with watercolor pencils. I haven't worked with them in such a long time. So I thought I would do that again for you. Oh, look how the different shading and colors are coming into our background. Isn't that pretty? I hope you can see that on camera. I don't know if you can or not. But it's light and sparkly and kind of starry sky looking. Okay. All right. So watercolor pencils are really quite easy to work with. And I kind of cheated when I did this one. And I forgot that we didn't sell them anymore. I actually used an old Stampin' Dazzle, which was a silver. We had silver and gold. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you how you can kind of get that metallic look by using pencils. So I have basic gray here, which is a little bit dull. So that's another thing I want to share with you. You need a good quality sharpener and not one of the ones with the big hand crank. These are the best type, a small metal, and you move the sharpener, not the pencil. These leads are very soft, and if you move the pencil, you'll probably just break it off. So I'm going to take basic gray and I'm going to color in where I want it to look somewhat silver. Don't press super hard. And then I'm going to show you, you're going to end up with stroke marks because that's what happens. Even when we were perfect colors as children, we would get stroke marks when we colored. And the beauty is, so I want silver there and I want silver there. The best thing to do is make sure you work, or the easiest thing to do, I guess maybe to say, is work with one color at a time. Because we're going to use our blender pens, wherever I put it, here it is, to smooth out the colors. Now it's got color on the nib, so you just make sure there's no color transfer. And then you just gently circular motion go over where you've colored, and it will blend your stroke marks into a solid color. I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but it is gently blending it into a solid color. I don't know if I'm getting any comments or not. Sorry, if you're commenting, I'm not seeing them, and I'm not sure if I don't have me set up right, or if good old Facebook has changed things on me. It's been a while since I've been on. No, I think I was in the right spot. So, all right. If anyone's watching, please comment, say hello. It's not so smoky today in Alberta. It's been so smoky with the fires from BC. Those poor people there. Can't imagine. Okay, so let's jazz our rocket up and put some color on it. I know we're going to use this pencil again. Let's put some real red bands on it. And it's like you get pencil marks when you change direction or whatever. That's where the blender pen is so awesome. And if you want the color to be more intense, then you just add more color. And then I want red in my flames down here. And you can actually color the whole thing if you want before you bring the blender pen in. This one. Too dark. Ah, Pacific Point. Okay, so let's do, this will be like pretty close to the sample. This is what I get for being gone for so long. Everybody forgets that I do these. We'll get back at it, I hope. Now you still need to be fairly careful because there's no kind of erase brush like there is with the blends. I mean, you could color this with blends, that would be fine. I don't like my red isn't dark enough for my liking. And then let's add a bit of orange and yellow to our flames here, coming out the back of the rocket. Okay. Now we need to color our puppy dog. So I've got a couple of browns here. No, there's another brown here somewhere. So let's, in my sample, I think he had dark spots. Into his ears. And if you're really clever and have lots of time, you can actually do shading this way and it looks pretty cool. I'm just not going to do that. I don't use the watercolor pencils very often, to be perfectly honest. I find the blends pretty easy, but sometimes these ones let you be a little bit more accurate, especially when you're working with tiny pieces like this, like the dog. Just like pencil crayons, really. And then you can go and smooth them out later to get your image looking better. Okay, that's all his body. He's got some black boots. I think he needs black boots. He's got space boots on. How about a red collar for our puppy dog? And a yellow bone. Hello, Kristen. Great to see you. I have been missing for so long. I was wondering if anybody would join me today. Now we just need our place to sell. The work is done. Now it's just the hurry up and wait part. Okay. So I'm just, you run your blender pen until it's just clear coming out of there. And then just go in and blend your brush strokes or your crayon strokes together to make it look more uniform and blended. And we'll do the red. Oops, I still got a bit of blue on there. That's okay. And especially the colors on the body are kind of streaky. The blender pen's got a little bit of color on there that is being stubborn. That's okay. All right, so I think we've done all the coloring we need to do on him. Now, so this is how our background ended up after it's dried now with the spatter on the blending. And we can actually start putting our project partly together. Okay, now what did I do with? I told you don't lose this piece, and I have lost the piece that we cut out. What to do with it? Famous last words. Well, okay, I'm not going to waste. It's here in a pile of stuff. I'm sure it'll show up when I'm done. What you want to do, okay, first of all, I bent my card base, which doesn't make me very happy. I'm going to fold my card base, and I'm going to apply my Misty Moonlight layer that is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Get it on there crooked. That's awesome. Now I'm out of practice. Can anyone tell? I have done almost no creating in over a month. It's really hard. Oh, this is making me a little crazy. That little piece has gone missing. Okay, I'm just going to punch out a circle. Give me one sec here. Like I said, it'll show up when I'm done. This is just basically a placeholder. So when you're working with this mechanism, you're going to need to have brads. So we have these brads in the catalog, and there's different, I found it. Told you I'd find it. There it is. We have the different sizes, and it really doesn't matter. If you want to use a tiny one because you'd rather use the bigger ones for something specific where you want the brad to show, that's perfectly fine. And what you want to do is you just want to poke a hole somewhere in the middle of this piece that's cut out. It's because it's basically waste, but it will come in really handy for you. So what you want to do is, I probably poked too big a hole in there, but that's okay. You're going to put that behind this circle that you've colored, and you're going to put your brad through there, and you're going to open it up, and you're going to keep it kind of loose. You're not going to make it really tight. So you've got a little bit of space in there. And then you're going to add 2 dimensionals to it, one on either side of the brad. And you'll just kind of visually, so there's a mark here. That is going to be your point. You're going to use that as a lineup. Line that up over your brad. And then lay this down. And this is going to come away, but that allows your mechanism to spin. And by putting those dimensionals on it, it makes it less tight to your mat here. Nerf bullets and dirt. Well, that's fun. Be a couple of interesting diapers after that, I'm thinking. I have a dog that does the same thing, so I'm kind of in the same boat. Yeah, he was under the deck eating dirt. I couldn't figure out how come when he was pooping, it was coming out black. And then I realized what was going on. Yeah, fun times. Hello, Cheryl, how are you? Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me back. Yes, it feels like it's been gone forever. Okay, so then on to our front piece that we've colored and splattered. You want to put a dimensional on each corner. And then again, match that dot up, centering it over your mechanism. And then this is going to turn like this and be so fun. I don't know if I have it perfect, but it's not bad. And in the dies, there are, where are they? I'm going to show these to you. Here they are. Tiny little arrows. So you can, and I cut this out and I put it adhesive sheet on the back. So I could pull that adhesive sheet off. Maybe. There we go. So that it's self-adhesive and I can put it right there so that they know they need to turn they need to turn this little mechanism like that. I have this, I didn't get it quite centered, but it is what it is. Let me get these brads out of the way before I make a mess with them. So the next thing I did on the rest of this scrap is I stamped my little astronaut. I think he'll fit on there. And I colored him, and then I actually cut him out by hand because there are no dies for these little characters. There we go. All right, so I will color this really quickly so that we don't have to spend a ton of time on this. But if you're using watercolor pencils, there isn't quite as many options for colors as there is with the blends. So what I did to give a flesh tone on my little guy here is I used a really light pressure of Calypso Coral, and I just kind of brushed it all over. I want to get his face done before I do anything else because I want it to set up and dry, and I'm actually going to go over top and give him some pretty blue eyes. All right, where's my blender pen? And I really want to make sure I have no color on there at all. So see how I can make that blend, and it will lighten it up a little bit. So he's got almost a fleshy colored face. And we'll let that dry before we come back and do his mouth and his eyes. Now, like I did with the spaceship, I'm going to take my basic gray and I'm going to do his helmet. And I just use light pressure unless I'm really trying to get an intense color. I want this to kind of look like a metallic. So I am going to add Winkostella to it, which we didn't do to my rocket ship, which I forgot, which we will go back and do. Yeah, kind of fun, huh? And I watched a couple videos and they used this set of dies with some other stamp sets that I think is really fun. So I think maybe tomorrow night's video for my VIPs will be kind of a continuation of today. Okay, so see, it's all kind of streaky and that, don't worry about it. The blender pens will fix that. I also want his gloves to be gray, but they're not going to get the metallic touch. They'll just be gray. So they will have blender pen, but no Wink Estella. And the treads on his boots, just to give them separation from his boots, because we'll do his boots in black. Press a little harder, get a little more intense. So see that depending how hard you are, how different the color is on the treads compared to that. And that side goes black. And they are all labeled if you're not sure which color you're picking up. Because sometimes the colors on the ends look the same, but it's not the same lead inside the pencil. And I want his boots to be quite black. And what did I give him? A blue outfit? I think I used this one. Okay, so this is a little bit dull, so I'll show you again. So if you're going to use watercolor pencils, get a good quality small metal sharpener. And when you put your pencil in, don't turn your pencil, turn the sharpener. The leads are so soft that they will break on you. And you don't ever want to take it any sharper than that. I actually got that a little sharp, because then you just end up with lots of streak marks that you got to blend out, right? I just kind of go in a elliptical motion. But this is one of the coloring tools that we offer. And there are 2 different collections of colors, and they do last quite a while. Okay, let's give him some dirty blonde hair. So I'm using crushed curry. And I have Bermuda Bay. We'll give him some pretty blue eyes. Yellow star on his chest. Now his belt, what did I do? I did give him a red belt last time. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Yes, and I gave him, my basic gray. I gave him silver loops on his belt. So I use basic gray, and then we'll add some Wink Estella to it. So I think he's all colored. Okay, let me bring back my blender pen. So these have 2 ends. So you can work with 2 colors at the same time if you want. I am just going to blend all my streaky marks on his helmet here. I don't know if the resolution is good enough for you to see this or not, but there are streak marks all over this and they're just blending together to be a nice uniform color. I'm going to smooth out his gloves a little bit. And like I said, try and do all one color first. Then you only have to clean your tip out between colors once. And to clean them out, you just simply rub it on your paper like that. I did his face. His boots look pretty good. So it's just his uniform here we need to. And it'll pick up some color and I can get a little closer around that star on his uniform. Smooth out his belt a little bit. I mean, if you're a perfect color, you don't need the blender pens. But there, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so give that a second to dry. While that's drying, because I want to add Wink Estella to some of this, and I don't want to do it until it's dry. When you're working with the blender pans and you're just using standard white cardstock, you don't want to work it too hard or it will start to pill on you. But what am I trying to do here? Oh, right. So we put our arrow on here and I cut out, because there's two sets of the same die, to cut out some stars that we're going to put on in the sky where our astronaut is floating. So there's two sets of those dies here. There's some clouds, some circles, and like I said, this heart, this circle, this rectangle can also be used to cut the window shape. And then you have a little flag for a message, some embedded or debossed, if you will, arrows, a circle. So this would work with this circle to frame it if you use this as your window. Okay. I am going to grab my little scissors and I'm going to quickly fussy cut him. Nothing really fancy. I'm not going to go into the tread shape or anything like that. Like I said, there's no dies for these guys. There might be for some other stamp set that you choose. And when you fussy cut, remember, move the paper, not the scissors, and you'll be much happier with the result. Cut some of this off and get it out of my way. Yes, you have way more control when you are moving the paper rather than the scissors. Especially when you got to do a sharp turn. I know, a little tedious watching me cut, sorry. But I wanted to share the watercolor pencils with you. I don't think I've used mine in, I bet you, not a year, which is terrible because they are a great coloring tool and relatively inexpensive for having a wide variety of colors to work with. There we go. All right, so let's finish decorating this, shall we? So I've got him on my sample card down there, so I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of him. I want some of those blobs to show up, so you may, I want to cover up this spot here where the lineup is for the mechanism. So I'm going to put a bit of glue, and I'm going to put one of my bigger stars on here flat. And then the rest can be whatever. Put a dimensional behind that one, mini one. And you just kind of want to put them at random wherever. Let's pop these ones up, and then we'll put the two little tiny ones flat. I've just been thinking I haven't done a children's card in a while, and I'm running out of them at the market. So this is perfect time to do them. And then we've got two little tiny ones. So I'll just put a dab of glue on the back of those. Oh. There. And that is it. Oh, no, it isn't, because I forgot to put I haven't done my Wink of Stella. It's okay. So now that this is pretty dry, I'm going to take the Wink of Stella and put it on his helmet. And it makes it look kind of shiny, so it makes it look kind of metallic. So if you don't have metallic pens, and which Stampin' Up! Doesn't have at the moment, this is one way to get that look. And maybe the loops on his belt will make them look a little shiny. And you can always let it dry for a minute and then go add some more if you want more shine. And maybe in his pretty eyes. Oh, we didn't do his tongue. Nice pink here. There. Okay, and we didn't do the Wink of Stella on our rocket ship. So let's do that. It can pick up color. The Wink of Stella brush can pick up color just like the blender pen. So you might want to just take a couple strokes if you're changing colors that you're putting it on. There. Dry for a minute. I'll open this up, and I have the greeting, "Celebrating you is a blast," that I'm going to put on the inside. And I have the little stamp here of the planets. Put that in the corner, and we would put that on our envelope. I'm going to give that a minute or two to dry before I color it in. But there you have it. I mean, our little space man here having a stellar birthday. Oops, I didn't get that on there very good. There we go. I don't have very good fingers for this. A little dog and have a stellar birthday. So I think tomorrow night, if you join me, if you're part of my VIP group, and if you're not, go over to Parkland Stamper VIPs and ask to join, and I will certainly admit you. I think we'll go another step further with this card and this idea, see how different the backgrounds are. So I went a little more intense on the color on this one. This one's a little lighter. Same with the helmet is darker. I think I'll wait and maybe add a little bit more glamour to him to make him a little sparklier. But yeah, there we go. That is the Give It a Whirl dies along with the Stellar Birthday stamp set. I am going to play with this and see if I can get some of the other windows to work and with some other stamp sets. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry I've been gone so long. Hope to be back pretty regular. There is a chance I could have some contract work coming up, which means I'm not available during the day. But my plan is, if that happens, is I will pre-record it. So there should be something here Wednesday afternoons, whether it's pre-recorded or live. And I will always be back to my live on my Thursday VIP group, Thursday evenings. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have an amazing day. We will talk to you really soon. Bye.